All right, today I'm really excited because I get to talk about one of my favorite topics, near-death experiences. This is one of the most important videos that I'm ever gonna make, and I'm super excited about it. Knowing about this information now completely changed my life. I view the whole world and my life in a completely different way now, in a beneficial way. This is gonna be a long video, but I'm telling you, it is worth it. A little bit about how I did the research. I did research now on near-death experiences for about 6 years. So what I did is I did my own research, meaning I interviewed some people, not a lot. I did a lot of reading. I watched a lot of first-hand testimonials. And then what I did is I researched researchers that researched near-death experiences. So I researched the researchers and see what they had to say. And I compared notes, and to my amazement, they all match. They all correlated. So this cannot be a bullshit thing. Full disclaimer before we go ahead, I am not religious in any way. And most of my life, I would consider myself a skeptic, but an open skeptic, meaning I don't believe things right away. I have to kind of verify and do some kind of detective work to see if what's being said is really true. So first of all, near-death experience, or NDE, I'm going to say NDE from now on in this video. What it means is you came close to being permanently dead. You are dead temporarily. In other words, no heartbeat, no brain activity, no activity of any sort. And in that state, people have an experience often greater than or more real than this life on Earth. So that's a near-death experience. It doesn't mean that you almost got into a car crash and you almost died, or you slipped and almost fell down the stairs. You could have died and near death. No, it doesn't mean that. If you search for near-death experience on YouTube, a lot of people come up with stories where they almost had a bad car crash. They would have died. That's not near-death experience. Just to get that clear. So that's what that video is not about. That this video is about NDEs, which is no heartbeat, no brain activity, and so forth. Before I can even explain to you or get into more about near-death experience, is first you have to understand consciousness and what consciousness is. So let's just take a look at Wikipedia's definition of consciousness. Wikipedia says consciousness is the state or quality of awareness, or of being aware of an external object or something within oneself. It has been defined variously in terms of sentience, awareness, qualia, subjectivity, the ability to experience or feel, wakefulness, having a sense of selfhood or soul. Okay. Anyways, in layman's term, it's the feeling of being alive, the you inside of you, the person that's experiencing everything. Another note before we continue is academia, or mainstream science, claims that all consciousness is produced by the brain. So the brain, and only the brain, is creating this feeling of being alive or conscious. That's what mainstream science says. It's very important to remember as we go along. Science can actually scan your brain and detect things happening in your brain when you think, when you remember, when you imagine things, when you focus on things, when you react to things, taste, seeing, hearing, touch, smell. They could, see stuff's going on in your brain when these activities are happening. Also, there appears to be different levels of near-death experiences. There appears to be shallow ones where you get a little peek and you get a little more in depth, and there is really in depth in near-death experiences where people sometimes claim to have been in this other place, other world, for years, when in reality on Earth they've been maybe dead for a half hour or something. Because of the internet, more and more people are finding out about near-death experiences, and I find it strange that you know, religions and stuff, they get all this information from one book. So everything you need to know about life is right here. One book, or whatever, a few books, many books that are put into one book, however you want to say it. But anyways, they were written a long time ago. So they look at evidence. Well, the thing is, they only look at evidence from a long time ago. They don't look at evidence what we have today, which is happening on a daily basis, and thousands of testimonials. We're going to get into that, all that. So this video is going to be about NDEs and all the evidence we have so far, and it is mind-blowing. First, let's show some examples which completely destroy the skeptic's argument that the NDE is happening in your brain, even though when you're pronounced clinically dead, there's nothing at all going on in your brain. Let's take a look at this video clip.
In the operating room, in comes Dr. Takata, whom I had never laid eyes on before. He introduced himself.
Hi, Mr. Sullivan. Good afternoon. Dr. Takata. I'm Hiro Takata, and I'm a cardiovascular surgeon.
And he told me what he was going to do.
We will take veins from the legs, and also we take artery from chest wall, and we plan to do 4 or 5 bypasses for you.
And I'm listening.
You're going to do very well with this operation. Now, Dr.
And all of a sudden, I don't have to listen to him telling me. I can see what he's doing. Because I found out that I wasn't there to listen anymore. I just left my body and watched. I can see, but I'm up looking down at that used to be me. It wasn't me, because the real me is up here watching. That's when they started putting stuff over my eyes and all kinds of drapes and blankets all around me. And I could see Dr. Takata and his people. And this is another thing. I could see through the operating table and me, and I could see what kind of boots he had on. At one point, he stepped back. The surgeon stepped back, and it looked like he's flapping his arms. And I thought, what in the world is he doing that for?
Dr. Takata, when he's not operating and trying not to contaminate his hands, will put his hands close to his chest and point with his elbow.
There's a part of my signal here now I send to scrub nurse or people around me who assist me with the operation.
He was orchestrating, do this, do that, do that. And it did seem very foreign to me what he was doing.
Al Sullivan would not know of this peculiar behavior of Dr. Takata. I did not tell him that.
I cannot explain how he saw these things under the complete sleep of anesthesia.
Even if he was conscious. It would be impossible for Al to see Dr. Takata's stance or arm movement because Al is behind a drape that blocks the vision of the patient and his eyes were tape shut.
So explain that to me. Explain that through chemicals or some of the other scientific explanations. Please explain to me why that man knows that.
There is no explanation for that in current neuroscience. I personally and professionally am not afraid of saying that I don't know, because that's the way we learn. And 20 or 30 years from now, maybe somebody else will be able to explain it.
Okay, another time in a hospital, this person also was pronounced clinically dead. I don't know exactly for how long, and they're trying to resuscitate them. Meanwhile, this person has an outer body experience, leaves his body, floats out the window and upwards, and notices a tennis shoe on a ledge. So anyways, the person gets resuscitated, they come back, after a few days, they recount what happens. They say, hey, when I was pronounced clinically dead, I floated out of my body, I floated up, and I saw this tennis shoe on the side of the building, on the ledge. So the nurse said, yeah, very, very nice, okay, interesting, yeah. So the nurse decided to look outside the window, see if she could spot a red tennis shoe. So looking outside this window, nothing. Goes in another room, nothing. A few days later, on another floor, on the other side of the hospital, lo and behold, she's doing some work, looks outside, sees the red tennis shoe. Something that the other person who was clinically dead had a near-death experience, it would be impossible to know about. There's another one for you skeptics. Here's another one. After a horrible car crash, a man loses a leg and is very injured. His wife and son die in the crash. He had an NDE. Months later, he writes a book about it because he found it so fascinating. And he invites the surgeon to lunch that operated on him, that was there when he died, to present it. At lunch, the surgeon confessed he knew that he wasn't going to die because in the operating room, this is what the surgeon says. The surgeon says he knew that he wasn't going to die because the operating room turned into a portal. And the dead wife spoke to him, spoke to the surgeon. This is what the surgeon says. So, wow. These are all documented cases that I'm going to leave a lot of references under this video. You could look it up yourself if you don't believe me. Take a look at this one.
He had been performing an operation on a healthy man who was not very old, and it was an elective surgery. It wasn't anything very serious. So there was no thought whatsoever that the man would get into trouble. But in the event, the patient had a cardiac arrest on the table, and the surgeon was not able to resuscitate him. So after a while, he gave up on the resuscitation, and he was having all these feelings like, how did this happen, and what am I going to tell the family, and doing the paperwork. Whereupon he said, whereupon the surgery doors opened, the doors to the operating room, and a woman came through, and the surgeon told me at first he thought that this woman was psychotic or yelling, and that she was a lunatic, and that she was raving, and he said, what is this? And he said, as he tried to listen to what she was saying, that what she was saying was, she said, my husband is not dead. She said, I was in the waiting room, and my husband came to me, and he said for me to come in here and to tell you that he's not dead. And so the surgeon was so startled that he automatically reinstituted the resuscitation, and to his astonishment, the patient revived. And he said when the patient was coming to or waking up in the recovery room, he said the patient said to him, I was out of my body looking at you, and you couldn't hear me, and I was trying to tell you I was not dead. So when you couldn't hear me, I went out to the waiting room, and I told my wife to come in here and to tell you that I'm not dead.
Okay, here's another one. A man dies, pronounced clinically dead, in the operating room. And he describes Post-it notes on a monitor stuck together like a chain. And he was resuscitated, brought back to life. After, when he was able to speak, he told the doctor about this. He told the doctor about, you have like a Post-it note, a Post-it note, a Post-it note, like a Post-it note stuck onto a Post-it note, stuck onto a Post-it note, like a chain. He said this to the doctor, and the doctor was baffled because it would have been impossible because, first of all, that monitor wasn't in there when they started the operation. And not only that, you get your eyes taped shut. You get stuff put in your ears that click. I don't know there's a reason for that. So your ears are blocked, your eyes are blocked. You have a curtain even there. And they were operating somewhere down over here. And he's the person who had the NDE says that, no, I saw that. So the doctor was baffled. How can you see that? But it was true that did exist. That because every time the doctor got a call, he instructed the nurse to come in and take the Post-it and stick it under the other one, and then keep sticking them if there's more calls that come in so he knows what order they came in. Now, how could a person who's clinically dead know about this and explain it in such detail? There's another one. Okay, we're going to go to a clip. The neocortex of the brain is the part of the brain that mainstream science, in other words, scientists around the world, or brain surgeons, scientists around the world agree where all this, without that, you can't have an experience, they say. So all your conscious experience is happening in the neocortex part of the brain. Let's take a look at this clip.
Probably the most important factor in my story is that I had a very severe gram-negative bacterial meningitis that drove me into coma within hours and then completely ravaged my neurologic exam to where I had no function of the neocortex. The neocortex is the outer surface of the brain. That's really the part that makes us human. All of our conscious experience, being here with you now, seeing you, hearing the ocean, just appreciating every bit of our being here, my body awareness, and the language that we use, and our understanding, rational thinking, our flow of logical thought, matching all of this against our memories of past experience and trying to make sense of it and modeling the world. All of that depends on the neocortex. All of that depends on the outer surface of the brain. There are other parts of the brain down in the thalamus, which is way down deep in the brain, and then way down in the lower part of the brain, the medulla and what's called the reticular activating formation. That's an ignition system, but the actual rich, elaborate tapestry that each one of us puts together as our model of the world around us, moment to moment, demands that at least some of that neocortex be there, because that's the most powerful calculator in the brain. And you cannot put together an elaborate, complex model of reality in consciousness without having at least some of the cortex working. That's why severe bacterial meningitis over 7 days was just such a powerful argument that this very real experience, more real than even sitting here with you, was something that truly occurred.
And the skeptics, they still think it's happening in your brain. Here's another one for the skeptics. There are people born blind. They're born blind. And they report highly visual experiences. How can this be? It's totally impossible for someone to have vision when they were born totally blind. That's not my opinion. This is the mainstream science says this. Let alone let alone being totally unconscious and have no heartbeat or brain activity.
Visual, highly visual near-death experiences have been described in those born totally blind. That's absolutely impossible. It's impossible for someone born totally blind to have vision, let alone when they're also unconscious, and yet these have been reported, and that is beyond any possible medical explanation.
Here's another one. Under general anesthesia, dead people, or people that are declared clinically dead, report having experiences. So, this is not my opinion. This is mainstream science. Just with general anesthesia, you know stuff they put on you so you fall asleep, so you don't feel nothing, right? So you're out of it when they do an operation. That alone is impossible to have conscious experience. And especially when you're dead. You know, so you got two things going against you. The anesthetics and, well, you're dead. You got no brain activity or heart. You can't have a conscious experience. But yet they do. People do.
Near-death experiences occurring under general anesthesia. When you code, when your heart stops, while you're under general anesthesia, it should be, if you will, doubly impossible to have a conscious experience. When your heart stops, you can't have a conscious experience. When you're under general anesthesia, you shouldn't have any kind of remembrance at all. When it occurs both at the same time, it's doubly impossible. And yet, by the scores, experiences, near-death experiences under general anesthesia have been described. They absolutely do occur, and they're very typical near-death experiences, indistinguishable in their content, including their degree of consciousness and alertness, from near-death experiences that occur under all other circumstances.
Hey, skeptics, in your face, motherfucker! Here's another one. A person is clinically dead, and they get resuscitated, and after they talk with their doctor, and they tell the doctor, you had stuff in your pocket, and you took your hands out of your pocket, and stuff was flying out. There was a granola bar, like detailed stuff, like let me see here. There was a stethoscope, tea bags, granola bar, pens from the lab coat fell out. How could a person who's clinically dead know about this? You know, they say that they saw it. They were outside of their body. They saw that their body was lying there, and they saw the doctor, and they saw all this happen. They tell it to the doctor after. They tell it to the doctor what happened. All the stuff fell out. It's like detailed stuff, right? It's not like a fantasy. It's not like an illusion. It's not a hallucination. Otherwise, it wouldn't make sense, right? A hallucination would be more random, not exactly what happened. Okay, here's another one. A person clinically dead describes he left his body, outer body experience, because when you have an NDE, you have an outer body experience, but you don't need to be dead to have an outer body experience. But the NDE starts with an outer body experience because you leave your body. Anyways, this person was clinically dead and describes a toy train on another floor in the waiting room with detail, like words written on, just detail. And then, this is all documented by nurses and doctors, the next 3 weeks in his recovery, he didn't need his glasses or hearing aid. Then after a few weeks passed, he had to wear his hearing aid again and wear his glasses again. That's something strange. When I was in my mid-20s, I was talking with this girl, and she was into drugs and stuff like that. And she told me that she overdosed on heroin once, and she died because the doctors told her that she died. Had no more heartbeat, no nothing. Anyways, in this conversation that she's telling me, she was also poor and stuff like that. And she's telling me that she left her body and she was leaving the planet. Like she saw the planet go down and she was leaving. And she said while she was leaving, she saw other people. However, they didn't look like a head, body, arms, and legs. But she knew they were people. They were like balls of light, kind of. And there were balls of light leaving the planet, thousands of them she could see. And she saw thousands of balls of light coming down to the planet. So she saw this, so I'm like, Back then I didn't do near-death experience research. I'm like, And then she says, I don't recall her saying that she spoke with any spiritual being or in this thing, but anyways, they resuscitated her, and she says when they resuscitated her, she was pulled back really quick in her body again. So she saw the earth come, it was like she described like she was falling really fast, like faster than gravity. And she said she slammed back in her body, and when she was back in her body, she was in pain. She never felt pain like that in her life. And that's a very interesting fact, because later on, when I started to research near-death experiences, I noticed that people say that a lot. They said that when they got back into their body, it hurt. Some people even say they got slammed in, like that girl. So that's another thing. Very, very, very strange. Now she's not the type of person who researched near-death experience or even watched TV, because she didn't have a TV. So I thought it was interesting to throw that in there. Okay, at this point, I could stop it right here and end this video. The evidence that you just saw is enough probably to win a court case. And if it's not, there's hundreds of more videos of the same type of evidence that I just presented here. But there's a lot more interesting stuff to show you, so let's get on with it. So first of all, let me describe to you a typical, there is no typical, but commonalities, things that are in common almost of all near-death experiences, NDEs, is the person, this is not every time, this is most of the time, the person separates from their body. They see their body. Now either they see a speck of light, a little dot of light that gets brighter and brighter and brighter and brighter and brighter, or they leave their body, like float away, float over the house, over the country, up high. Sometimes they go into pure darkness, and then eventually a speck of light appears and gets brighter. Or, like I said in the other example, the person is separate from the body, they're in a room, and they already start to see that little speck of light. Anyways, then the speck of light gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and then as it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger, it starts kind of surrounding them, and people, most people, they describe kind of like a tunnel. They're going through a tunnel at a very fast speed, like faster than speed of light, let's say, people are saying. When they reach when they're kind of finally out of that tunnel, they feel like they never felt before. They feel incredible. They feel safe. You feel an infinite amount of love coming from this light. Experiencers claim it is as if you are the only thing that matters in the universe. So important. That's another feeling you get from this light. You might meet other beings that look like humans or something else, like a ball of light. When you are in heaven, the other realm, and you communicate with other beings there, you become them. People have claimed this. They're in that other realm, heaven, and they meet a friend that died. They say, hey, start communicating. When that happens, you actually trade places with them. You become them. So you know exactly how they felt at every moment on the planet. And what's strange is same thing on Earth. I'm gonna make this other video where when you are connected to this machine, and when your brain is connected to this machine, your brain can't tell the difference if you are imagining something or doing it. And so if you're watching somebody else talk, you become that person. This happens here on Earth. That's how your brain works. But that's for another video. So we do that too in heaven, but we do it the really intense way. You literally become them for a while to see from their perspective. Also, another thing is when you ask questions, when you're in that other realm and you're asked questions to other beings, all you need to do is think of a question and it gets answered right away. It's not like, oh, how long have you been here? I have been here. No, it's at the moment you have that question, you get the answer. So, and a lot of NDEers, okay, when they say that, when they ask questions, it's not like they're told the answer. It's they remember. This is also important. They remember things. Like, of course it's like that. Yeah, why didn't I know that? Of course I know that. How could I have forgotten that? That's the type of experience they go through. So it could be in a heavenly world, right? Or not. Could be similar to Earth even, but with color, sound, and other senses much greater and richer found than on Earth. Examples, colors that are so vivid, they don't exist on Earth. This is another thing that happens to NDEers. And a life review. Because like I said, any of these things doesn't happen to everybody. It happens to most people. All these things I'm saying happens to most people. There's a life review. And in the life review, you become the person and feel everything they felt. So you relive their lives or parts of their life. So let's say you remember I was here and I was talking to this guy and this happened. Well, when you remember that life review, you become that person and you see their perspective, where they came from. And then you go back into your body and you say that, and then you realize that how either you were wrong about saying those things, whatever you said, or you said the right things, or neutral. When you do your life review and you become the other people in the life review, the feelings are much more intense than they are on Earth. So you really understand what the other person has gone through in life. There is no judgment there, by the way. This is another thing. See, this is why the religion part, there is no judgment there. I never ever heard of an NDE, an in-depth NDE, mind you, an in-depth NDE. Because an in-depth NDE, you remember everything. You know how it works. You know the truth. If you don't have an NDE like that, if you just have an NDE where you're going somewhere, you're meeting and talking, but you don't have that happening, you can get manipulated. So I'm not talking about those NDEs. I'm talking about the NDEs where people, their consciousness completely opens up. They remember everything of how life works, how the universe works, and stuff like that. Not one of them reported they got judged. However, all of them reported they judged themselves. They realize it's almost as if there's no ego there. Now, zero ego, I don't think that can exist, but it's almost like 99.9999999% of your ego doesn't exist, so that you could be 100% neutral, and therefore you judge yourself. You know that, oh, that was the right thing to do. Oh, that was the wrong thing to do. When this life review's happening, and you realize you are realizing all the mistakes that you made. But other beings, or the light, doesn't judge you. Then they're told to either make a choice to go back or stay, or they're told you got to go back. And then they come back. And most people, when they come back, they say it feels really gross and painful to be back in a body. The initial feeling to be back in the body really feels gross and painful. It's such a crazy thing that they didn't talk about it. Now, because of the internet and the sharing of information and experiences, more people are coming out with it, saying, I had an NDE, I had something like that, I had something like that. So that's kind of a typical NDE. So is an NDE like a dream? Let's see what this doctor says.
In my very first survey that I ever put up on my website, I asked the question directly of people that had near-death experiences. Was your experience dreamlike in any way? Very broadly and deliberately worded so that if there was any similarity, there would be a yes and an explanation. That was the last time I ever put the question up because the answer was so emphatically no. Heck no, no way, no, no, no. And I actually felt bad about asking the question because they were so emphatic, those that had near-death experiences, that it was nothing like a dream. And that's true today. When you have a dream, it tends to be less lucid. Near-death experiences are more lucid. Dreams tend to skip around in terms of events. Near-death experiences tend to have a very logical, ordered sequence of events. Dreams you will tend to forget, near-death experiences you don't. Those are just some of the more glaring differences between dreams and near-death experiences. And in fact, one of my survey questions I currently ask is, has anything in your life reproduced any part of your near-death experience? And essentially never, out of literally thousands of people that have answered that question, do they bring up a dream. It's just not the same conscious experience.
Nope, it is nothing like a dream. So how do you know you're not dreaming right now? Could be dreaming right now, no? Well, I'll tell you how you know. Because you're watching this right now, you know you're not dreaming. I'll tell you how you know this. You know this by making a comparison. You have a dream and you have this waking life, and you can compare, and you'll notice right away that this feels way more real, this dream. Well, it is like a dream, but anyways, this feels way more real than the dream did. Even though at the time, the dream felt kind of real. Then when you woke up, you can make the comparison. Oh, wait, this feels more real. This is the real reality right here, not the dream. One of the main tipping points of me believing that near-death experiences are not created in your brain. Besides, I mean, there's so much evidence. There's so much evidence that if you would present it in a court of law, it would be a slam dunk win. If you bring in all the testimonials, all the doctors, all the reports, all the research ever done, it's a slam dunk win. NDEs are really happening. You leave your body. The piece of evidence that really, it's something to think about. It's something to think about because it was the main factor of convincing me that, wow, NDEs are real. They're not hallucinations or dreams or fabricated in your brain. And I'll tell you what it is. It is when you have an NDE, right? Not a shallow one. A shallow one could mean like your heart stops, you're dead, you're declared clinically dead, and then you leave your body. And then you could see your body, you could see the room, you might float up or something, or maybe see a speck of light getting bigger. But then they resuscitate you, and then you wake up. So you're gonna have an NDE experience, but you weren't dead long enough to have anything happen. So that's a shallow NDE. An in-depth NDE is where the real juicy stuff happens, this is the part you have to look at, because this is where all the evidence is. People that have real in-depth NDEs, okay, they claim that it's more real there. They claim that when they leave their body and they go to this other place, I want to say heaven, but heaven has the connotation of religion, it's linked to religion, and then they're going to have their version of heaven. I'm just going to say heaven, though, because of the other realm, that other place, all right? And when people having NDEs and they're there at the other realm, they claim it is more real than this place, because your consciousness opens up. In a human body, this brain, in a human brain on Earth in the year 2018, in this reality, in this universe, the consciousness is not, your consciousness is squeezed and shrunk. It's not, when you leave this body, this vehicle, your consciousness opens up again to what it really is. And everything comes back in, all the information comes back in. You understand now that, oh my God, people say, on Earth, that was like a dream. That's fake on Earth. That's not the real reality. I mean, it's fake. You're having real experiences, just like when you have a dream. When you have a dream, you're having real experiences. You're driving a car in a dream, it's okay, but it's not the real reality. Same thing with this place. This place, I could, you can touch things, you could do stuff, but it's not the real reality. It's not the end all be all. There's something else more real than this place. And people claim that's how they feel when they're there. They remember that, what life is really like. Not this. I'm not saying life in this universe. Life, the real life, the true reality. This is not the true reality. This is what they feel and know. Now, there is no drug that can do this, because scientists say, it could be chemical reaction in the brain happening that we still can't detect, let's say. So when people are having these NDEs, the deep ones, you feel much more awake. You feel more lucid, more aware. It's more vivid. You're more conscious. You're more sober. You're clear. Everything is more real than anything you ever felt on Earth. There are no drugs, natural or fabricated, or any kind of chemical that can cause this. There is nothing that you could take, hey, it's more real now. Reality is more real now. No, there is nothing. So I find it completely fascinating that people are claiming this. That when they're having their, that convinces me that, because why would you make that up? Like, let's say it's a lie. Well, first of all, it can't be a lie, because people all over the world, politicians, surgeons, generals, lawyers, policemen, garbage collectors, cooks, artists, doesn't matter. Why would they, they're all saying it around the world. Now, people are going to say, no, you're wrong. There are some drugs that can do that, that can open your consciousness, like DMT or ayahuasca and stuff like that. Some drugs give you a very real experience sometimes. But no one ever said, it's more real than real life. When I take these drugs, it's more real than real life. No. And hallucinations, most of the time, from drugs are dreamlike and or unrealistic in the way you feel. In other words, you know you're hallucinating. When you hallucinate, you know you're hallucinating afterwards. Maybe not during the hallucination, but afterwards, it was a hallucination. And they're not like an experience like your life, like you're doing things and thinking. It's like hallucination is usually small, the wall looked like it was moving. The wall looked like it was, moving or wanted to grab me. Or you have strobe effects when you move your arms, okay? But They don't have deep odysseys of existence that are more real than your life on earth. That nobody ever claimed, because drugs can't do that. Drugs and chemicals cannot make you have a more real life experience. It can open your consciousness a bit in different ways, different perspectives, but doesn't make it more real. So, but, you know, when you have an NDE, it's more real. That should tell you something right there. Statistically, around 76% report consciousness and alertness greater in NDEs. Greater than in NDEs than everyday life. That is medically inexplicable. Okay, when I say heaven, I don't mean the evangelical heaven in the Bible. I'm just going to use the word heaven because it's easy for you to understand. Kind of, that's where you kind of go after when you die. Okay, so how is it there? It's basically anything you want. That's how it is there. There's no time or place. You create a time. You create a place. You are creating. Just like here on earth, you create your life, future, but there it's kind of like instantaneous. Here it's like in molasses. It develops slowly. There it's like kind of instantaneous. So what this universe is, this universe that we're in right now doesn't really exist. The experience you're having exists, just like when you have a dream. The experience that you had was, you know, if you're running from something or you're walking towards something, that's real. But the representation or the visual representation is not real. Same with this universe. This universe is all in our imagination. And when I say in our or in your imagination, I don't mean in your brain, in your human brain. I mean your higher self, your true self. Because you are something so powerful, your true self is something more powerful than the universe. So when you're in heaven, you understand how the universe works. And what I get from all the facts put together is the universe is not really real. Now, quantum physics also proves this. Everything is vibration, okay? If you take the most powerful microscope we have and you look at the wall, you look at the table, you look at the floor, you look at a car, you look at yourself, you look at anything. I'm talking about atoms, molecules, okay? You look at anything, there's nothing there. I mean, when there's nothing there, I mean, there's nothing solid there that you can touch. The only thing that's there is vibration. So this universe is the most tiniest vibrations building bigger vibrations, being bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. That's what it's all vibrations. That's all it is, energy. Even Einstein says it. This is what scientists have to realize, that it's all vibration. And vibration in this universe manifests itself differently than in heaven. So, because in heaven too, it's only vibration. Put it this way, the only thing that exists is imagination, thought. That's the only thing that exists. And by virtue of love, this is what NDEers say. If you dig in deep, they would all agree. Everything's made out of love, but it's all vibration. And this whole universe it's almost as if all of the souls, or our higher selves, our greater selves, which is not in this universe, by the way. This is the soul that's in this body. It's a part of your soul. Anyways, your higher self, it's as if, picture your higher self, everybody though, all the souls at the same time, you could say. Higher self, they're kind of like meditating. And they meditate this universe into existence. And then you agree to go in it. You agree to go into a place that everybody is creating. That's how this universe is. Now, if you say, Well, where are we? Point to it. Point to it. Where are we? Here? Down there? Over here? Over there? Where are we? Right? Well, let me ask you this. For the people that have had lucid dreams. Now, lucid dream is when you're dreaming, you know you're dreaming. You're aware you're dreaming. Example, you're in a dream and you're looking around, you say, hey, I'm dreaming. I don't know how I know this, but I know that I'm dreaming. This is not really real. This is inside, my head. I'm dreaming. And really, I am in my bed sleeping. That's where I really am. So that's what a lucid dream is. Actually, when I was up to the age of about 18, 80% of my dreams were always lucid. Always, 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 always. Nowadays, hardly ever. But when I was younger, always lucid. So I have a lot of experience with lucid dreaming. And it's as if to point or show where heaven is, would be like asking me in my lucid dream, say, hey, where are you right now? Point to where you are sleeping. And I go, well, I'm right, I'm right. You can't point, right? Because I'm not in that world. I'm not in that dream. So you can't point to any place in that dream. I'm really here. I'm really there right now. I'm sleeping. There is no place. It's a complete different state, right? When you're dreaming or when you're awake. And when you're when you're dead and out of this universe and in heaven. Different state again, different states. Less real, the dream. More real, this life. More real, heaven, or where you go after you die. So that's what people are learning or realizing or remembering when they go to heaven or have discussions or talk with other beings when they're dead, clinically dead, when they're declared clinically dead. And then in this place, the universe, it's like the universe is like a giant thought or imaginary place with rules, very fundamental rules, and then it lets itself express itself, however it comes out. That's kind of like what this universe is. Another thing that people learn from near-death experiences, remember, is that you are forever. Not the human body and not the universe. I'm talking when you leave this universe and you go into your true reality. There might be even a higher reality. I have no evidence of that at all. What's the purpose of life? Now, when you research the subject, you're going to see that, it's to learn. It's to grow. It's to just experience yourself and all that. People that say that turn around, walk away, because never once did I see a testimony or read where God or Source told the person, you are here on earth to learn. You are here to, or whatever, specific like that. Never. They were never told. Never. And now, hold on. Some of you might have had a near-death experience and you were told that. You were told something on. You're here to learn. But the thing is, I'm talking about the near-death experiences when the deep near-death experiences where you are communicating with Source or becoming Source and you know everything. I'm talking about those experiences. No being ever said, you are here on earth to learn. You are here to experience. No. So we don't know why we're here. Nobody knows. Now, what are we supposed to do here? That is answered. Why we're here? Never answered by Source. What you're supposed to do here while you're here, answered many times, many times. And it is two things. Always. Almost always. And I base all my answers on the in-depth near-death experiences, not the shallow ones. The in-depth ones where the people realize everything. They know everything. Their consciousness expands. What we're supposed to do here, we don't know why we're here, but what we're supposed to do here is two things. Be kind to others and become what you're supposed to become. That's it. Those are the two things. You're supposed to be kind to others. In other words, you know what kind is? Sharing, cooperating, helping, being kind. That's what that is. And God says that, or Source says to do that. And he also says, become yourself. Turn into what you're supposed to turn into. Now, that's a little vague, but not really. Because what you're supposed to really turn into, and what you really are, is love, pure love. So turn into that. Turn into pure love. You're supposed to turn into what you're supposed to turn into, what you're supposed to become. And what you are supposed to become is that love. But of course, here on Earth, on this universe, yes, you can't turn into pure love, but you could do loving things, right? You're not supposed to do things in life that you don't love. You're supposed to do things in life that you love. Because when you do stuff in life that you love, you turn into, your human body turns into what it's supposed to. So if this person, let's say, is a carpentry guy, he loves carpentry, but that's not his job. His job is, because of capitalism, because he has no choice to pay the rent, he can't, let's say for some reason he can't do this, he's doing something else. See, he's not turning into what he's supposed to turn into. Right? So capitalism makes people do things they normally wouldn't do, unfortunately. But so that's another example of what you're supposed to do, what you love in life and what you like and love in life. That's what you're supposed to do. So that's what that means when God says, be kind to other people and become what you're supposed to become. That's what that means. God is us, and it's not us. God is an independent being, and it's all the souls put together. It's both at the same time. It's like quantum physics. If you want to understand more how heaven works, or when you're outside this universe, study quantum physics. Because in quantum physics, things happen at the same time. Everything happens at the same time. All possibilities are possible. Like, I'll give you an example. Quantum physics. Not on this case, but I'm just giving an example. See, this is red, right? In quantum physics, you could do experiments and it can say stuff like, this is red and it's blue and it's no color and it's both red and blue at the same time. Everything I just said, at the same time. And depending on how you look at it, if you're looking at this, it's blue. Oh, when you look at this way, it's red. When you look at this, there's no color at all. When you're looking at observing it this way, you know, and I'm not saying look at it with your eyes. I'm saying observing it, not necessarily with your eyes. Or I'll give you another example. In quantum physics, they have this thing. It's called a double slit experiment, and they take small pieces of light, which is photons, and they shoot this at two slits, miniature. They have proven over and over and over again that when they're shooting it, one photon goes through the left slit, it goes through the right slit, it goes through both slits, and it goes through no slits at the same time. That's kind of what I'm talking about. Things are weird to us outside this universe. But people have near-death experiences claim kind of the same thing. They understand that, the universe, there really is no time like it is here in this universe. Everything is happening at the same time, and like stuff like that. It sounds exactly like quantum physics. And these people that have near-death experiences, they don't know anything about quantum physics. It sounds the same thing though, you know, almost identical. So the God is a separate being, and at the same time, it's all of our souls together at the same time. If you want to see how God is, you can. People have done this in near-death experiences. Somehow they do that thing, what I said before, when you communicate with someone in heaven, right? You would become them. And you could see, so you understand all the, anything you want to ask them, you know right away because you are them. So same thing you do with, let's say, God or Source. You could do that. You could switch and go there and say, this is what it's like to be God. I know everything now, this, everything's so simple, kind of, wow, it's beautiful, it's, you understand you understand infinite, that you are an infinite being, you understand that. However, when you're, let's say, when you're God, well, actually it's this way. Down here is a human, and up here, expanded consciousness, that's God. So if you're up here, the thing is, when you're up here, you know everything, you understand everything, but you can't have an experience. You just are there. You're just aware. You're just being. You're just existing. That's up here. Then when you come down and you narrow that consciousness and you stuff a piece of it, a point of it, into a human body like this, now you can have experience. So see, it's not like, it's not like one's better than the other, if you know what I'm trying to say. It's a different perspective, a different thing. So when you're down over here, you narrow consciousness, you get consciousness, a narrow view of consciousness, you get a different point of view, and because of that, you could have different experiences. You can have different experiences. When you're over here and become God and see how it is to be God, you know everything. You can't really have experience because you have all the experiences at the same time. Everything's happening at the same time, all the experience, you know everything. You can't have that. You can only have that down here. So that's what God is. God is a separate being and all of us at the same time. When do NDEs happen? Now, most of the time they happen, overwhelming majority, when your brain is shut off, doesn't work anymore, and your heart doesn't beat, and there's no more brain activity. But it doesn't need to. Some people have them when their brain's still working, and they still have brain activity. I'll give you an example. This one testimonial that I saw, person was parachuting, and he was falling down, his parachute wouldn't open. And when you got to about, I think it was 1,000 feet or 700 feet before, impacting the ground, he said that they stopped in midair. So imagine you're falling, you're not dead yet. You didn't hit the the ground. You're falling. Then about 700 feet before you would hit the ground, you stop. And so he found this very bizarre. Like, how the hell can this be? How could this be that I'm stopped in midair? And then what happened is a light came. A little pinprick, bigger. There was an experience he had, communication, the whole thing, remembering, more real, that more real thing that I told you about. It's more real than this planet. Remembering stuff, learning stuff. And he said that the other being, basically they said, your chute's not opening, you're going to hit the ground there and you're going to be, damaged a lot. You're going to be in a hospital and you have to go back. So the person, he wanted to stay and all that. And they said, no, you have to go back. And then they said that we'll put you back in your body after you impacted. So you don't have to go through the experience of hitting the ground. And, so he became conscious after he was put back in his body, and he became conscious after he hit the ground. And then he went to the hospital and all that. And of course, you can imagine he was there for months, and he had this memory of him stopping before hitting the ground and having this experience, which is more real than on Earth. Okay, who has NDE experiences? First of all, it doesn't discriminate. Lawyers, judges, policemen, generals, colonels, soccer players, football players, musicians, dishwashers. It doesn't discriminate. Anybody. There's not more higher category. Oh, these people have it more than these. Also, religion or race, that has nothing to do with having an NDE, more of them or less of them. According to published research, it affects about, on average, 12% of the population. Now, it doesn't mean that the 12% that have NDEs, doesn't mean they all have big adventures. It could simply be their heart stopped, and they're pronounced clinically dead, and then they floated over their body, and and they see stuff, and it could be just be that. So it doesn't have to be that 12%. In other words, doesn't mean they all have this big thing. They go to heaven, talk with people, talk to God, and all that. Doesn't mean that. It just means they have an NDE, near-death experience. Actually, since thousands of years, people have been reporting NDEs. Also, another fact: when you have an NDE experience, you remember it your entire life in detail. Not like a dream. A dream, you can have a dream. It's so amazing. You tell all your friends about it. A year later, yeah, you remember it really good. 5 years later, yeah, you remember it good. 10 years later, yeah, you remember it good. Maybe a little less. 20 years later, you still remember it, but a little less detail. 30 years later, less and less and less. And NDE is not really like that. NDE is you remember everything from since it happened till you get really old. You remember it. That's a strange thing about NDEs also. So this person claims he had an NDE, met someone in the NDE, later on and got resuscitated. Years later on in life, he recognizes a photo of his wife's dead father. That was the person. And he had never even met his wife at this point yet. That's amazing. Also, some people, they come back with clairvoyant gifts, special powers, gift, like knowing some future events, or even understanding more quantum physics and how that works. Isn't that interesting? Some people are cured of a fatal illness during an NDE, or have miraculous recoveries from serious injuries. One person, I remember, cancer. I forgot her name. I think she wrote a book, Dying to Be Me, I think it's called. She claims that, she had this big near-death experience, one of the big ones, very in-depth. She was shown or remembered why she has cancer. And when she came back, instant recovery. And the type of cancer she had was very, the chances of you living, it's one of the worst ones. I forgot which one. It's one of the worst ones. You're going to die, and full recovery. And still to this day, and she's a changed person. She says her personality changed too. Okay. Another fact, NDE data versus quantum physics. So in quantum physics, they came to the conclusion, proven through experiments, many times over, that everything exists at the same time. And that time is something unique to, let's say, to this universe. They don't understand how time works, but down at the quantum level, everything's happening at the same time. All possibilities at the same time. So this is, NDEers claim that when they're in heaven, they learn this or remember this, that everything's happening at the same time in this universe. Well, that's interesting. So they learned that everything is happening at the same time, and quantum physicists are saying the same thing too from their research. And also, there really is no time, space, or things. That's another thing that quantum physics proves. It's only vibrations. When you're in heaven, you find that out too about this universe. This universe is it's a state of mind, but not your mind here. Your mind, your real mind. I know I'm pointing there, but your real mind of your higher self. Okay, scientists have been doing experiments for over 10 years now, and the experiments are looking over and over again as if we are living in a computer simulation. So the universe is a computer program, and we're living in it. So they're kind of half right. However, the computer that runs this universe is not made from silicon and chips and wires. The computer that runs this universe is made from consciousness and thought and imagination. if you connect all the dots, you can't come to any other conclusion. If you study this, a lot of people are watching this video and they're already making up their mind yet, but you didn't research NDEs like I did, and you might not ever. You might take people's word for it. A lot of people do that. I know, I researched it, and I still am. There is no contradicting terms when you research NDEs. The only contradicting thing would be if one has a shallow NDE and one has an in-depth NDE, that might be different. Like here, he might see maybe, do I dare say it? Jesus or Jesus-like figure in this. But it's not that NDE where you get all your knowledge back. You know everything. Your consciousness expands. It's not one of those. Those are the ones I'm talking about. I'm only talking about, because there are some where they say they die and they see Jesus and stuff and they have communication with them. But those ones are, you got to be careful because, if you don't know everything, you have to trust that other thing. Put it this way, the real NDEs, the in-depth ones, are the ones that I focus on, are the ones where you find out all the information, you know everything. This is why, and that's where I draw all my conclusions now that I'm going to say. People describe ghosts as your soul left your body, but it doesn't know it's dead. That's what I heard. I mean, every time I watch those ghost shows, they've been on forever, they all say that. And then this other person communicates with that ghost. Yeah, it's true. It's like, because I'm communicating with him. It's true. But nothing in near-death experience research shows this. Nothing. It contradicts that, matter of fact. Because never once did somebody die and didn't know they were dead. They all know. They might not know that they're like dead, clinically dead, but they know that something is up, something happened, something is weird, and then eventually that light comes, a pinprick light comes, and you're out of there. I never once seen a near-death experience where I left my body and I didn't know I was dead. I found it cool. I just walked around. It didn't come to my mind that I was dead or something is wrong, or something is wrong. See what I'm trying to say? So when people say that people communicate with ghosts, they say, "Oh no, that's that soul there." It's not, because near-death experiences proves it's not. Now, I don't doubt, that they're communicating with somebody. And from what I understand, this is not my opinion, based on a whole bunch of facts. What I think is going on is that people that follow ghosts and stuff like that, there's this thing is called residual haunting, meaning the residual energy of somebody. But then they say that it's just residual, so it's like an echo of something that once was. But based on all the stuff I've learned from NDEs, is I think that residual energy is intelligent. I think that residual energy that they have, enough of it starts to stay together, and you could actually talk to it, and it can communicate with you. It's like it still is an echo, but it's like an intelligent echo, because consciousness, we don't fully understand consciousness yet. I believe they're talking. These ghost whisperers, or people that communicate with, let's say, ghosts or other spirits, I believe they are talking to somebody or something, and they're getting messages back. But I don't believe it's the soul of the person. I do not, because nothing even slightly suggests that when you study near-death experience. What it could be is, like I said, is a residual energy. If enough is left, it kind of coalesces together. It stays together, and because it's made from consciousness, right? This energy is made from consciousness. Well, everything's made from consciousness, but this energy was created from a being that was conscious. And if there's residual left over, I think it might be hard to tell the difference between the residual energy and the real person. So I think they're talking to residual. I think they're these ghost whisperers or people that communicate with ghosts. I think they are talking to intelligent residual energy. That's what I think it is. It's not a real soul. Let's say it's not the real soul of the person that was in the body. Okay, examples of hell. Is hell a real place? I remember one testimonial where the person said, you know, that he had a near-death experience, and he was found in this place, like on this little island, and there was like, it seemed like it was inner Earth, you know, looks like inner Earth, or like a big cavern, and there's like this lava everywhere flowing, fire, and there's people burning everywhere, and they're suffering, they're screaming. And he's on this island, this devil-type person rips off his arm, then he rips off his other arm, then he rips off his leg off, and then it starts over again. And they claim, the people that have this experience, or the person that had this experience claims it seemed like he was there for like hundreds of years, eons, stuck in a loop. But the strange thing is, when his arms got ripped off, no pain. Just, you don't really feel physical pain, because nothing physical exists really anyways. It just kind of like, it has to do with consciousness. And then, but what always happens though, of all the hellish type experiences I heard of, what always happens at the end is pinprick of light appears, and the light pulls him out of that place. But it's not really a place, right? It has to do with consciousness. It's your state of mind. And then they usually learn after, once they're out, oh, I was doing that. I was doing it to myself. I was creating that hell for me. So of all the people that have near-death experiences, maybe only 5 to 10% have the hellish. But like I said, it's not like it lasts forever. For people that, let's say the person got resuscitated while he was on that island, right? Where that demon person was ripping off his arms, he would come back and say, oh my God, I was in hell. Oh, you know, and it felt like he was going to stay there forever. It felt like he was there forever, and it's going to stay there forever. So that's where it comes. I guess you're going to burn in hell for eternity and stuff like that. But the thing is, the truth of the matter is, all these hellish experiences, if they don't get resuscitated right away and they let it happen, let it play out, a light always appears. Every single one of them. Every single one of them. A light appears, or some kind of being comes down, takes them out of there, away from there. It kind of like fades out that place, which there is no place. It's all in your mind. So that's hell. People have different imagery when they have near-death experience. Some people say, I seen Jesus. Some people say, I seen a place, it was like heaven. It was like, but colors were beyond the colors here. The sound was beyond here. Everything was alive. Some might have that. Some might say, I was in a void, black void, but there was other beings there. I was communicating with other beings. People have, or some people say, I saw, I was on the butterfly. I was on the wing of a giant butterfly. This person says, oh, I was talking with lion beings. It could be many things, different type of things. The way you explain that is, the way some people explain that, I should say, is that the imagery or experience that you're going to have when you have a near-death experience is based on all the information or all the memories you have of this world, your life here. So, whatever life you have here, okay, so when you have an NDE, the imagery is based on that. But that's not true, because you have to remember, this is not your first time here in this universe. This is not your first time incarnating in another vehicle, in a meat suit like this. It's not your first time. NDEs show this, prove this. So it would make more sense that when you have your NDE, or when you finally die and you get out of this universe, the imagery and things you're going to experience is not based on what you've learned here in this life. It's based on all the lives you ever had, your soul, the total experiences of that soul, that's the imagery you're going to have. I'll give you an example. You're a Muslim all your life, but you have an NDE, and then you see Jesus. I was like, huh? How does that work? Right? Well, the thing is, that person could have had hundreds and hundreds of lives already here as a Christian. You know, believing in Jesus and stuff like that. And now in this incarnation, he's a Muslim. So then, when they die, how come I didn't say Allah? I thought Jesus. Well, it's not based on this life. It's based on all your lives together. It's based on, you know, all the lives that your soul had. That's what you're going to see. That's the imagery you're going to see. This is a good one. Not to bash religion, but this makes a lot of sense to me. Once an experiencer asked God or Source, you know, what is the correct religion? And the question was immediately answered, or she remembered, and it came through a telepathic feeling. And it came back, and it was the same as if a child on earth pointed up and asked, what cheese is the moon made out of? So this is when you communicate in heaven, it's not with words, it's with feelings and knowledge. That's how you communicate, telepathically. I found that was interesting. Also, it seems that, based on NDEers, people have NDEs, that you are emitting something, waves, but you can create different types of waves. If you show love and stuff, you create these type of waves. If you show anger or fear, you create these type of waves. The more good waves that you are creating, the better it is for, let's say, Source. This is the information that NDEers, it's not my opinion. This is the information that they come back from the other side. If you add them all together, everything emits waves. Everything, camera, I do, a rock, planet, just everything, certain type of waves, on the quantum level. And people that have NDEs also claim this. They say that they find out that even if you are on Earth and you even do nothing, you stay in a room all day and you play Nintendo or something, even that you're helping out God. You're doing His work. Just by being here, you're emitting these waves. We don't know, we don't have enough information on this, but the point I'm trying to get at is we are emitting something. Okay, we are constantly emitting something. Waves, frequencies, waves. That's been shown to exist through NDE experiences. So just being alive in this universe and never interacting with anybody, you are helping build something. That's the knowledge that people get. I like Einstein's quote, which is, "The laws of nature are God's thoughts in mathematical form." I love that quote, but I would rewrite that to, "The laws of nature are God's thoughts explainable in mathematical form." I think that's better, because math is just also it's an abstract idea. It's something that we invented, right? You don't have a soul. You are a soul that's in a body temporarily. Everything is temporary. Everything except your soul. Your soul is eternal, infinity, forever. Everything else, though, is not. Everything else is temporary. Your life here on earth, your life in heaven, situations on earth. I don't got money now. I got a lot of money. I'm poor. I'm starving. I got the disease. I got no disease. Everything is temporary. Everything. You decide what life you want to have. So, but the thing is that the thing that people are making a mistake, they're assuming, all right, that they're in heaven, let's say, and they say, "Oh, I'm going to have this life in this person on earth." Right? Could be, sure. And then, they die and they go back. Sure, that could happen. But one thing that you can't forget. This universe is huge. This universe, right? It's unmeasurably huge. So what I'm trying to say is, you could be in heaven and say, okay, I want this life. I want to stay 100,000 years as a reptilian. Then I want to stay 50,000 years as a Pleiadian. Then I want to stay 10,000 years as a human. You see what I'm trying to say? There's different, and then I'm going to come back. So in other words, because it's not only heaven, experience as a human, go back to heaven. It might not be that. It might be, come into this universe, you're this big, another being, a powerful being. And then that powerful being says, no, I'm going to have experience in this. And then I'm going to have experience as a human for a while. Then I'm going to be a reptilian for a while. Then I'm going to be a human for a while. Then I'm going to be this being for a while. Then I'm going to be this. And all that could be billion of years. Then you go back to heaven. So it's not directly from heaven to here, report back to heaven. It doesn't have to be like, this is for another show, but aliens, and also full facts. I'm gonna have full facts and evidence and stuff like that. Advanced beings in this universe have the technology to transfer over into another vehicle, take your soul out, put it into another vehicle, another body, another type of body. So when reptilians die, before they die, they transfer their soul into another younger version of themselves. So they could be a reptilian for 1,000,000 years. You know, the only thing that could maybe break them out of that cycle is an accident, and where they die, where they didn't have the technology ready to grab the soul, put it in another body, and then it dies. You know, then it goes maybe back to heaven, or it goes back to. So in other words, there are different levels. There's different levels of existence in this universe. The human one is more down here. You could have, you can come in from heaven into here, be here for 100,000 years, here for 2 million, back here, and this being, which is a higher level being, for a million years. Then I want to be a human for 10. So you decide all that before you even enter this universe. Before you enter this universe, you decide all that. What kind of what kind of life you want. Not just one life. I'm going to live to be 85 years old on Earth. No, it's not just that. You could have those other ones. That's why some people that have NDEs report they have an NDE, the same thing. They go out, the whole thing. But they meet up with lion beings. They look like cats. Lion beings. They have 2 arms, 2 legs from what I know. And a head and all this. They look humanoid, but they have a head of like a lion, and they look like they're transparent, like almost like light or fire, flamey, like light. So that would explain that, because maybe you said maybe when you're out of this universe, let's say in heaven again, you say, I'm going to come in, I'm going to be this lion being, which is a higher level of consciousness in this universe. I'm going to be that for 1,000,000 years, but from this level, I'm going to go from here. I'm going to incarnate into a human. Then when I die, I'll go back to the lion being, right? Go back into human, lion being, human, lion, reptilian, lion. Then eventually pop out of this universe, and then you're here. So it's not just, thought I'd throw that out there before I leave with you. It's not just straight from heaven, like as if this planet Earth is the only, in a human body, this is the only experience you could have. There's literally almost unlimited amount of experience you could have in this universe, or be. So human is one side of it, one little microscopic side of it. Anyways, that's about it. So I hope you liked this video. Subscribe, like, share it. And just remember that although this body might die, your body, as a human might die, your soul lives forever. So you live forever. Everybody that ever died that you know of, their body is dead. They died. Their soul is not. I could guarantee you that from based on all the evidence. It's the only conclusion you could form. And that's it. Do the right thing.